Welcome to the Everything Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be recapping Neighbours episode 9280, which was originally released on the 21st of July 2025. And I'm recording this episode just over a week later on the 29th of July 2025. I might have said June there. I can't remember, but it was released on the 21st of July. I'm recording this episode on the 29th of July. A couple of things before I start. You will have noticed that I'm going back to kind of recapping a single Neighbours episode in comparison to doing a week's worth. That's just because we're doing 14 episodes. I've kind of caught up with myself now, and I kind of decided to kind of go back to doing that. It's more Neighbours episodes, and instead of doing a summary. So there'll be shorter episodes, but there'll be more of them, if that makes sense. What else? Oh, yes, the 29th of July for Neighbours fans might be a sad day, because I only found this out not long before I'm recording this episode, that the finale, in quotation marks, finale, was released in the UK, at least, I think it was, on the 29th of July 2022. Now, obviously, kind of, that wasn't, it was the finale for a year, and then obviously Neighbours came back and is still airing, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be recapping any episodes, and we know that the final episode, I'll actually get to when it airs, but it's releasing in December. So yeah, we've got like 4.5 months or so of Neighbours left. We don't know how it's going to end. I don't think that's the end. I really don't. I don't know why I think that. I just kind of like it's not like a new show where it just gets cancelled. It's not. I don't think that's going to happen. And the ratings are good and all that kind of stuff. But before I might discuss that in a future episode, maybe. I haven't decided. But back to this episode, where I'm recapping Neighbours episode 9280. There hasn't been a new trailer for a while, so the trailer, as you know, if you watch any of my Neighbours episodes, tends to be the Will 3 be a crowd for Aaron. That's kind of been resolved, so I didn't kind of want to keep showing you that. So when there's a new trailer, I'll put a trailer at the start of before I do the recaps. But there isn't. There hasn't been a new one as of time of recording. Probably by the time we're releasing, like with the previous episode with the Fugitive Doctor stuff, there could be one tomorrow from what I'm recording, which obviously means by the time you're seeing this, that there's one already out. And if that's the case, that's why I say when I've recorded this. But without further ado, here is my recap of Neighbours, episode 9280. We start off with the previously recap, which includes Saskia asking Susan about a job at Irene. Saskia gets Susan's glasses repaired. Byron mentions his current mindset. Byron apologises to Leo. Carl mentions the council, and Therese selling Power Road. Therese gives Krista some advice. Krista asks Therese to brainstorm some ideas with her. Jane raises her voice at Abby. Abby requotes Jane with her dolls, and Leo records Jane. Now we're into the kind of the bulk of the episode now. As the recording Leo set up at Jane's is still running, Sam receives something. Aaron returns home. Isla and Abby hug Aaron. Aaron finds something on Sam's phone. Susan discusses uni with Saskia. Saskia wishes Susan was still the principal at Erinsborough High. Saskia mentions working with Susan at Irene. Susan mentions Dex and Madge, as well as Harry, Sophie and Kate. Saskia mentions Roxy. Susan and... Why am I struggling by saying Susan today? I don't know. Susan and Saskia discuss Roxy. Saskia mentions the history book. Susan retrieves this. Leo checks on Byron. Byron updates Leo. Leo convinces Byron to speak to him as a friend. Byron mentions Tay and Sadie's relationship. Leo mentions Jane not being herself. Byron mentions being nearly 30. Byron believes he and Sadie would have broken up at some point, even without what broke them up initially, which was some content within Amanda's will. Aaron and Sam mention Mike. Aaron and Sam inform Jane that Angela proposed to Mike, and Mike said yes. Jane convinces Aaron and Sam to return to work. Saskia mentions Shane. Aaron informs Therese that Mike is engaged. Aaron reveals Jane's reaction to this to Therese. Jane looks at some photos of her and Mike. Aaron mentions Amanda's death and Leo's hesitation to let Jane babysit Abby and Isla. Therese defends Jane. Jane puts away all the photos of her and Mike. Mike calls Jane. Jane refuses to answer. Leo asks Byron to check something. Krista checks in with Byron. Leo and Krista reunite. Leo and Krista discuss Abby and Jane. Leo reveals he is currently recording Jane. Leo regrets doing this. Krista promises to check in with Abby and Isla and turn off the recording software. Susan visits the Sonia Rebecca Foundation. Susan mentions Carl. Max interrupts Saskia and Susan. Susan convinces Saskia to accompany Max. Jane looks at the portrait of her mum that Wendy made. Krista checks on Abby and Isla. Abby and Isla hug Krista. Jane mentions Leo, Aaron and Sam. Jane informs Krista that Mike is now engaged. Jane believes she is fine. Therese convinces Krista to leave Jane, Abby and Isla. Therese mentions Paul and her and Krista's brainstorming session. Krista reveals Paul's response to her and Therese's ideas. Jane, Abby and Isla are making cake. Jane gives Abby some advice. Jane shows Isla what to do. Abby and Isla are worried about making a mess. Jane apologises to Abby and Isla. Abby notices Jane's sadness. Max reveals he has let Saskia down since she arrived in Erinsborough. I think I meant to say believes, not reveals. I don't know why I wrote that. Saskia mentions Dex and Dr. Bowman. I should actually pause. Dr. Bowman did horrible things. Obviously, he was a doctor at Erinsborough High and ended up kidnapping Holly and tried to kill her, basically. Poisoned Dex as well. If I remember correctly, Dex wasn't his target. I think, it was just... And then he went to prison. Now he's out of prison. That's the short history of Dr. Bowman in Neighbours. Max expresses him being there for Saskia to Saskia. Saskia mentions Byron. Max checks in with Saskia. Saskia looks at Susan whilst Max is talking to her. Krista updates Leo by phone. Leo convinces Byron to finish early. Byron receives a message from Hazan Mackenzie. Byron mentions Trevor. Saskia visits Irene. Saskia checks in with Susan. Susan convinces Saskia to leave. Krista and Therese discuss Paul. Krista gets Therese to open up about Irene. Therese informs Krista that she has a revenue issue which may result in her selling Power Road. Therese relates to Krista. Krista gives Therese some advice. Krista mentions Paul and Susan. Max talks to Aaron about Saskia. Aaron mentions an incident at Erinsborough High that involves Saskia. Byron mentions Leo. Byron talks to Trevor. Byron mentions Mackenzie and Saskia mentions Aaron. Max mentions Wendy. Saskia lies to Max. Saskia mentions Dex. Saskia believes Max is down to her. Max apologises to Saskia. Saskia hugs Max. Jane, Abby and Isla show Leo their cake. Jane finds out that the tablet has been recorded and Jane questions Leo. That is my recap of Neighbours episode 9280, I think it is. And new episodes of Neighbours will be released Monday to Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time until the finale on the 11th of December 2025. So yeah, the final episode of Neighbours that's when it's finishing. But in the comments below, let me know what you thought of a Neighbours episode 9280. If you watched it, my recap. If you didn't, you put your thoughts on both of those in the comments below. As well, anything else you want me to cover channel, such as any previews or recaps, put those in the comments below as well. Remember, you can also like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in a future episode of the podcast. Just a reminder that there are 2 episodes of the podcast now released every single day, with the first episode released at 11 a.m. GMT and the second episode released at 3 p.m. GMT. And without further ado, I will see you in a future episode of the podcast. See you then. Goodbye.